Hey there! Mantare79 here, and I'm back with another deck profile video for the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game. In today's video, the deck profile I'm going to be doing one for is the standard formats. Kageros, Blazing Flare Dragon with Fire Rage Dragon. Alrighty then, let's get started. For the main deck, we begin with the starting unit. Starting unit, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Starting unit, Grade 0, Lizard Soldier Conroe. Like any other starting unit in the V standard format, it features only one skill. When written on top of, you may draw a card, and if you're the second to ride to Grade 1 during the fight, you may also add a quick shield to your hand. And with that, we just about covered the deck's starting unit. Next, let's get on to the Grade 1 lineup. And now for the Grade 1 lineup. For the Grade 1s in this deck, we have 4 Lava Flow Dragons, 4 Flame of Hope Eremos, and 3 Lizard Soldier Raupias. The Grade 1 Lava Flow Dragon, its skills are: the first skill, when written or called, you may check the top 5 cards of your deck for a Grade 3 and add it to your hand. If you've done so, you must then discard 1 card from your hand as the cost. So if this first skill, Lava Flow serves as a basic Grade 3 searcher for the V standard format. When you ride or call him, you can check the top cards of your deck for a Grade 3 and add to your hand, making it a good way to stock up your hand on Grade 3s or to increase your chances of getting a specific Grade 3 you want to ride later, as long as you don't mind discarding 1 card later as the cost. And the second skill of Lava Flow, as a Vanguard or a Rearguard, during your turn, if you have more Rearguards than your opponent, then Lava Flow gets plus 5,000 power. So if this second skill, Lava Flow can serve as a 13,000 power attacker for the front row or a 13,000 power booster from the back row, as long as you manage to reduce the number of Rearguards in your opponent's field. The Grade 1 Flame of Hope Eremo, its skills are: the first skill, when boosting, it gets plus 3,000 power till the end of the battle. So this first skill, Eremo serves as a 11,000 power booster from the back row. And the second skill, as a Rearguard, whenever your opponent's Rearguard is retired, you may retreat Eremo from your own Rearguard. If the cost isn't paid, you can then draw 1 and countercharge 1. So the second skill, Eremo can not only help you restock your hand, but also countercharge 1, allowing you to refund Counterblast to use for later skills. The Grade 1 Lizard Soldier Raupia, its skill is: as a Vanguard or Rearguard, whenever your opponent's Rearguard is retired, he gets plus 5,000 power till the end of the turn. So Raupia is more or less a standard power-up unit for decks that focus on retiring your opponent's Rearguards. And the best part is, this skill is stackable, so if your deck specializes in retiring multiple opponents' Rearguards in the same turn, you can stack a huge amount of power onto your Rearguard Raupia, making him a powerful potential front row attacker or back row booster. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 1 lineup. Next, let's get on to the Grade 2 lineup. And now for the Grade 2 lineup. For the Grade 2s in this deck, we have 4 Break Breath Dragons, 4 Torrid Cannon Dragons, 3 Spillover Dragons, and 2 Dragon Dancer Frema. The Grade 2 Break Breath Dragon, its skills are: the first skill, as a Rearguard, at the end of the battle it attacked, if your opponent's Rearguard was retired during the turn it attacked, you can retreat Break Breath from your own Rearguard. If the cost isn't paid, you can draw a card. So this first skill, as long as you've managed to retire an opponent's Rearguard beforehand, then when it's time to attack with Break Breath, as long as you don't mind retiring him from your own Rearguard, you can then draw 1 card, making it a good way to stock up your hand on defensive cards or to make it easier to search for a specific card you want to add by drawing more cards. And the second skill of Break Breath, when written on top of, you can retire one of your opponent's rear guards. And if you did not retire upon using this skill, you can instead draw 1 card. So the second skill is mainly used as a Vanguard. If you've managed to write Break Breath as your grade 2 Vanguard, and when it's time to ride to grade 3, you can then retire one of your rearguards upon riding. But in the event there are no rearguards to retire, you can instead draw 1 card. So with these 2 skills, Break Breath serves as a pretty decent rearguard and Vanguard, however you want to use them. The grade 2, Sword Cannon Dragon, its skill is, as a Vanguard or Rearguard, once per turn, you can Counter Blast 1 and send a normal unit from your drop zone to the bottom of your deck. If the cost has been paid, you can retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rearguards, and after retiring, if you have 4 or less cards in your hands, you can draw 1 card. So with Sword Cannon Dragon, it's more or less a great way to retire opponent's rearguards, but at the best part, as long as you manage to fulfill the condition of having 4 or less cards in your hand upon retiring this skill, you can restock your hand by drawing 1 card, making this a good way to clear your opponent's field and to restock your hand with more cards. The grade 2, Spillover Dragon, its skill is, at the end of the battle, this unit attacked a Vanguard while boosted. You can Counter Blast 1 and move your rearguard Spillover to the soul. If the cost isn't paid, you can retire one of your opponent's grade 2 or less rearguards. So with this skill, Spillover is a good way to not only wipe out your opponent's rearguards, but to also restock your soul for later soul blasts. The grade 2, Dragoness or Frema. Her skills are, the first skill, as a rearguard, if your opponent has 1 or less rearguards in their field, then Frema gets boost. So with this first skill, as long as you manage to wipe out your opponent's rearguards beforehand, Frema, despite being a grade 2, can boost your front row attackers from the back row with her first skill. And the second skill of Frema as a rearguard, when placed during your turn, if you have 2 or more grade 3s on your field, like a Vanguard or a rearguard, you can Soul Blast 1. If the cost isn't paid, you can then retire all of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as Frema was called upon. And if 1 or less rearguards are retired, you can draw 1 card. So with Frema's second skill, on the turn you manage to call her if you have 2 or more grade 3s in your field, like perhaps your Vanguard and an additional grade 3 rearguard. As long as you don't mind paying the Soul Blast of 1, not only can you retire all of your opponent's rearguards in the same column as Frema, but in the event that if only 1 or less rearguards are retired by this skill, you can draw a card, making Frema a good way to not only wipe out your opponent's field, but to also restock your hand with more cards as long as you meet the conditions. And of that, we just about covered the deck's grade 2 lineup. Next, let's get on to the grade 3 lineup. And now for the grade 3 lineup. For the grade 3s in this deck, we have 4 Blazing Flare Dragons, 3 Fire Rage Dragons, and 2 Vortex Dragons. The grade 3 Blazing Flare Dragon, one of the main cards to ride with in this deck. Its skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard or Rearguard, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 or more cards. If the cost isn't paid, then you can choose one of your opponent's rearguards for each Soul Blast you paid for this skill and retire it. And then, if this unit is your Vanguard, and if you've paid 5 or more cards as your Soul Blast, you can not only wipe out all gift markers on your opponent's field, but also all protects in your hand. So with this first skill, it's more or less like a semi-omnipotent retiring skill, as long as you're going to pay multiple Soul Blasts at once for this first skill. But also, if you use it while as your Vanguard and if you Soul Blasted 5 or more cards, you can also wipe out all of your opponent's imaginary gifts on their rear guard, like the Imaginary Gift Force or Imaginary Gift Excel, but also all Imaginary Gift protects in their hands, making this a good way to clear out your opponent's field and hand in both an offensive and defensive way. And the second skill of Blazing Flare Dragon, as a Vanguard or a Rearguard, when this unit attacks, you can Soul Charge 1, and if your opponent is grade 3 or higher and if they have no rear guards, then this unit gets plus 10,000 power till the end of the battle. So with this second skill, not only can you restock your soul upon attacking, but as long as you fulfill the requirements of this second skill, you can also turn your Vanguard or Rearguard Blazing Flare Dragon into a 23,000 point attacker for the front row. The grade 3 Fire Rage Dragon, one of the other main cards in this deck. Its skill is, As a Vanguard or Rearguard, when placed, you can Counter Blast 1 and Soul Blast 1. If the cost has been paid, you must then send the top card of your deck onto the drop zone. Then choose the same number of opponent Rearguards as the grade of the discarded card and retire them. And if you did not retire any Rearguards with this skill, instead you can give Fire Rage Dragon +1 critical till the end of the turn. So if this skill, Fire Rage, is not only a good way to clear your opponent's Rearguards, but a powerful front row attacker for upon using the skill, you can retire the same number of cards as the grade that was discarded for this card skill. But also, in the event after activating the skill, if no Rearguards are retired, you can instead give +1 critical, giving a very heavy front row advantage if you like using this kind of front row multiple critical attacks. The Grade 3, Vortex Dragon. Its skills are, the first skill, as a Vanguard, once per turn, you can Counter Blast 2. If the cost has been paid, you may choose one of your opponent's Rearguards and retire it. And if you have 5 or more cards in your damage zone, discard all cards from your hand and retire all of your opponent's Rearguards. So if this first skill is more or less a basic retiring skill, but also having a bonus upon paying the Counter Blast of 2, if you have 5 cards in your damage zone or more, and if you're willing to discard your entire hand, you can then retire all of your opponent's Rearguards. And the second skill of Vortex Dragon, as a Vanguard or Rearguard, whenever your opponent's Rearguard is retired during your turn, he gets +5,000 power till the end of the turn. So with the second skill, it's more or less like Lizard Soldier Alpia, a Rearguard or a Vanguard that powers up upon every time your opponent's Rearguards are retired. So making it a very powerful attacker in your front row. And with that, we just about covered the deck's Grade 3 lineup. Next, let's get on to the trigger lineup. And now for the trigger lineup. For the triggers in this deck, we have 4 Angry Horn Dragons, critical triggers. 4 Embodiment of Spear Tars, critical triggers. 4 Wyvern Guard Paris, draw triggers. 2 Dragon Dance Nastasias, heal triggers. And 2 Mother Orc Dragons, heal triggers. The Grade 0, Wyvern Guard Paris, Sentinel, Perfect Guard. Like any other Perfect Guard in the Cardfight Vanguard trading card game, it features 1 skill and same effect. When used to guard with, you may discard 1 card from your hand. If the cost isn't paid, then the attack is blocked. The Grade 3, Heal Trigger, Heal Guardian, Dragon Dancer Nastasia. Her skills are, the first skill, when used to guard with, if you have not yet ridden to Grade 3, you may choose one of 2 effects. The first effect, your Vanguard gets +10,000 power till the end of the turn. So if this first effect is more or less a defensive skill to help keep your opponent from rushing you too early before you get the chance to ride to Grade 3. For this first effect, the +10,000 power will help you stop your opponent from rushing you too early with many front row attacks. The second effect, the attacking unit gets -2 critical till the end of battle. So like the first effect, this second one is more or less a defense skill to stop your opponent from pushing you to having too many damage early in the game by reducing your critical. And the second skill of Nastasia, when called under the rearguard circle, if you have no cards in your damage zone, you may place the top card of your deck face up on the damage zone. So if this second skill is a good way to counteract the damage denial strategy. The damage denial strategy is when your opponent keeps you from having any counter blast on your side by not attacking your Vanguard early in the game, thus preventing you from using any effective skills early on and messing up your overall battle strategy. So this second skill, it'll help you stop that annoying anti-fighting strategy by giving you at least one counter blast to work with when you call her onto the rear guard. And with that, we just about covered the trigger lineup. And with that, we just about finished explaining the deck's build and card effects. Next, let's get on to the deck's main playstyle. So for the playstyle of this deck, it's mainly you have to use Blazing Flare Dragon as your Vanguard while filling your front row, Fire Rage Dragon, and Vortex Dragon. In the back row, try to secure some rear guards that support you by giving you bonuses when you have more rear guards or when you retire, like Raupia, Lava Flow, and Ferrum. So for the overall use of these cards, I mainly use Blazing Flare to clear out the opponent's rear guards first, then upon when it's time to call Fire Rage Dragon, if your opponent has no rear guards thanks to this unit's first skill, you can then, instead of retiring rear guards, you can give Fire Rage Dragon +1 critical. So the main strategy is, instead of using Blazing Flare's first skill to eliminate your opponent's force excels and protects, it's mainly to clear out your opponent's rear guards, powering up your front row Vortex Dragon and Raupia in the back row, but also to ensure that your front row Fire Rage Dragon gets +1 critical. So like I mentioned before, the main playstyle of this deck is not to take advantage of the first effects bonus, but instead to clear out the opponent's rear guards and gather up massive amounts of power on your front row with Vortex, Fire Rage, and getting some extra support from your back row with the bonus of having retired opponent's rear guards like Raupia and Ferrum. And with that, just to finish explaining the deck's main playstyle. And with that, that's just about all the time we have for today. First off, I want to say thank you to the viewers for watching today's video, and to please stay tuned for more videos I plan to upload again in the near future. I also hope you all show support by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing to my videos and channel. And with that, I say goodbye and see you all soon.